Hi everyone, Lee here. In this video we're going to be looking at the basic form for Gedan Barai and then how we can adapt and vary it for our own solo training. Okay, in this video we're going to be looking at Gedan Barai. Sometimes this is called low block. I don't like that translation. One is it's a bad translation. Barai does not mean block. And secondly, I prefer the term low sweep, which I'll explain a little bit about in a second. But we have to remember that the kata existed long before the movements were ever given names. So you'd have these kata, and then over time they started to become standardized. And you might see a Gedan Barai style motion in one kata, and a similar move in another kata, and a similar move in another kata. And over time, these motions start to get standardized and stylized, and then eventually named. So there's a long process where these motions in the kata never had names, and then when they were given names, it was long after karate changed in many different ways. And I think if you look at Ken Wamabuni, who's the founder of Shitoro, in his book 1934 book, The Study of Seipai Kata, he explains this as well. That originally the movements in the kata didn't have names, and then it was only generations later these names were given. And the reason I prefer, by the way, low sweep than low block, except for the issues of the translation of the word, is that it removes the pre-existing notions of this move being a block. And it not just opens the mind up, but it also explains the trajectory or the plane of motion that move has far better. That's why I like the idea of the low sweep. It gives you an idea of which way the motion of the body should be going when we practice this move. So the first progression we need to look at is just the upper body template. So we're going to stand in the nice hikodachi natural stance, feet facing the front, knees slightly bent. And we're just going to start to work on the low sweeping motions. We'll have one hand in front, we're going to bring the other hand up. We'll try not to hunch the shoulders, it's nice and relaxed. We have one hand pulling back to the hip in this hikite motion, which we looked at in lesson 1, and the other hand's just going to slide through. We'll come up and through, up and through. I don't want too much shoulder motion, I don't want too much twisting just yet. Just nice and relaxed from there, up and through. Keep my head still, keeping my eyes still, and just practicing that basic solo move there. Okay, so the next thing to look at is the stance or the second half of the body. So we're going to be looking at the upper body and the lower body together now. So we'll just start by just popping one leg in front. This can be a nice judachi, nice relaxed stance. If you want to be a bit more formal, you can do a zenkutsudachi or the front stance. But for now, just for today, nice and relaxed, feet shoulder width apart, so I've got my hips in front. So my hips facing the front on the first bit, and all I do is I just twist across on the second. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'll show you that on the other side and from the side. So from there, up, across. I'm just practicing my hips. Get those hips turning, as again, I practice now with the bottom half as well as the top half. Okay, so the next stage after that is start to add some movement onto this. So instead of stepping out and practicing the move with the body, we're going to step and move, okay? So there's lots of different ways we can step. You can either step just straight in front. If you like to do the arcing motion, you can arc your foot in and back. Completely up to you, just depends on how you train. If you train both and practice both. Again, we're going to start by just going forward, making it nice and simple. So I bring my hands up as I come halfway, and then in and through, and then I can come back. Again, I can come up and through. And again, this is something you can practice. And again, obviously I've started to add a bit of speed and power. So from there, in nice and still, and back. And again, you can do this on both sides. And back. And you can move to the side, you can move forward, you can move back, move to the angles. Lots of different ways of moving with this technique. The next progression we have is we're just going to look at adapting and varying the movement and to fit our own applications. So if you have applications which work exactly like the motion in the standardized or stylized kata, then everything we just did, you can now practice with visualization. If your application has slightly different body mechanics, then you can start to develop them and adapt the standard form and do everything we did with the standard form with your new body motion. For example, if we pick the armbar and naihanchi, which is one of the ones Gichin Funakoshi, founder of Shatakan, described in one of his earlier books. So we can look at this move now, instead of being that block, which I don't like, we can look at it as an arm lock, and we can start to practice on grabbing the enemy's arm. I'm placing this just above the elbow, and then I'm practicing just twisting the arm down. So up and down, up and down. And then I can start to really add maybe the Naihanchi Dachi or the Kibidachi stance. So I can grab and drop down. So from here I can grab, lock the arm, drop down. And I can just practice that motion there. Another one to look at, you might want to adapt it up and start looking at this as like a hammer fist strike, to the leg, to the thigh, to the ribs, to the groin, depending on how low you want to go with that hit, with a pulling hand hikate. Again, we can work formal stances, where I'm just driving and striking in, grab, strike. Maybe I want to have some movement to the side as I strike in this time, and do something like the Sochin Dachi or the Fudo Dachi, depending on how you do the stance and which katas you have. Lots of different ways of practicing this. Okay, so the next one we can look at is like a single arm motion. So I'm only going to use one hand. Initially taught this by one of my instructors, Ian Abernethy, for an application in Pinnan Nidan or Heian Shodan. Again, so for me, I'm just going to have my hand up, I'm connected with another person's arm, I'm just going to whip that arm out of the way. So whip the arm down. So I'm connected, and I whip. And again, you can practice this with some body motion, some movement. I can just whip down. So there, whip down. Here, whip down. Here, whip down. So I'm just practicing this one arm motion moving. And again, I can go lots of different angles. Okay, so then the final stage is just to add on combination techniques. We were looking at the low sweep, the Gedan Barai. One common thing you see with this is the reverse punch, the Gyakutsuki. It's not that common in kata, but you do see it a lot in the line work. So it's a useful one just to explore. It's difficult to do this one, just the upper body, because you can't do a reverse punch unless you have one leg in front. So this progression, when you're combining techniques, you need to work with one leg in front. So you start to work both parts of the body to begin with, and then you can develop that with movement, and then with adaptations as well. So I'll give you a few ideas on some of the adaptations you can use. Going back to the one arm sweep, the last one we looked at, what I can do is I can pull the arm down, and then I can just punch on top. Or you can whip down and drop in a nice strong punch like that. So there's lots of different ways you can work to the angles, move back. Lots of different ways you can vary that. Same with the arm bar. I can be here, I can drop in that arm bar there, and then maybe because the head's a lot closer, I can do like a hook punch rather than an extended punch. And again, we can start to see how that can look like Teki or Naihanchi Kata as well. And then we can play around with all of this while we're at home and we don't have training partners, just to keep the body moving, practicing the right plane of motions for our own applications. In summary, we start off with just the upper body template. Then we add in the stance, so we've got the full body template. Then we look at ways we can move around and do some movement with that template. Then we can look at ways we can adapt and vary to fit our own applications and to practice the correct plane of motion for our applications. And then we can start combining with other Kihon waza or other basic techniques. And again, you can do the whole thing we just did with the solo form with one technique. You can move on and do the same with two techniques. So you can do just the body with movement and with adaptation as well.